She said it while loading the dishwasher. Not during a fight, not after I'd done something wrong. Just said it, casual as commenting on the weather while rinsing a plate under lukewarm water. I only see you as a friend now. I was standing at the counter, keys in hand, jacket halfway on. We'd been discussing dinner plans, or rather, I'd been asking if she wanted to try that new Italian place for our anniversary next week, and she'd been scrolling through her phone, offering distracted half-responses. The plate clinked against the rack. She didn't look at me. What? I said. I only see you as a friend now. She turned off the faucet, wiped her hands on a towel. Still didn't look at me. I think we should be honest about where we are. Where we are, like we were discussing a GPS location instead of 8 years of marriage. I stood there, keys digging into my palm, waiting for the punchline, waiting for her to laugh, to say she was kidding, to acknowledge the insanity of what she'd just said. But Emily just folded the towel, placed it neatly on the counter, and finally met my eyes. Her expression was calm, distant, like she'd already moved past this conversation in her mind. So that's it, I said. You're telling me our marriage is over while doing dishes? I'm not saying it's over. She tilted her head, her voice taking on that patient tone she used with difficult clients at work. Emily managed operations for a boutique healthcare consulting firm, spent her days coordinating between executives who thought their time was worth more than everyone else's. She'd gotten very good at managing expectations. I'm saying we need to be realistic about what this is. We're roommates who share a mortgage. We haven't been connected in months. Connected. Another word she'd probably picked up from one of those podcasts she listened to during her morning runs, the ones about personal growth and setting boundaries and not settling for less than you deserve. I've been working late because we're upgrading the entire HVAC system at the Riverside complex, I said. You know that. It's temporary. It's always temporary, she sighed. Look, I'm not blaming you. We've both changed. People grow apart. It happens. People grow apart, like we were plants in separate pots instead of two people who'd promised to choose each other every single day. I wanted to argue, wanted to demand she explain exactly when she'd stopped seeing me as her husband and started seeing me as, what, a friendly acquaintance she happened to live with? But something in her eyes stopped me, a flatness, like she'd already made her decision and was just waiting for me to catch up, so I didn't argue. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay? If that's how you feel, then okay. I pulled my keys from my pocket. I'll cancel the reservation at Marcello's. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I kept my voice even. Friends don't celebrate wedding anniversaries, Emily. That would be weird. I walked out before she could respond. The thing about being a facilities manager is that you learn to read systems. HVAC, electrical, plumbing, they all work on basic principles. Input and output, cause and effect. When something breaks down, you don't panic. You observe, you trace the problem back to its source, you fix it methodically. I sat in my truck in the driveway for 10 minutes, engine off, staring at nothing. Emily wanted to be friends. Fine. I'd treat her exactly like I treated my actual friends. No special treatment. No priority scheduling. No emotional labor she hadn't earned. When I walked back inside, she was sitting on the couch, legs tucked under her, watching some reality show where people renovated houses and screamed at each other. I'm grabbing a beer with Tommy tomorrow night, I said. I'll probably be late. She glanced up. Okay. Also, I'm taking next Friday off to help him move some equipment. Sure. I'm sleeping in the guest room, since we're just friends and friends don't share beds. That got her attention. She muted the TV. Ryan, come on. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm respecting your boundaries. I headed toward the stairs. Friends have boundaries, right? That's healthy. This is ridiculous. I stopped at the landing, looked back at her. She was twisted around on the couch, irritation finally cracking through that calm facade. You said you see me as a friend, I said. So I'm being your friend. What's the problem? She opened her mouth, closed it. Couldn't find the script for this particular scene. Good night, Emily. I went upstairs, grabbed my pillow and a blanket from her bedroom, and set up in the guest room. The mattress was firm, uncomfortable. We'd bought it for guests we never actually had, and it showed. I lay there in the dark, listening to the house settle. 8 years. We'd met at a mutual friend's barbecue. She'd been wearing a blue sundress and had sauce on her chin, and when I'd pointed it out, she'd laughed instead of getting embarrassed. We'd talked for 3 hours about nothing important. Music, travel, the absurdity of our jobs. She told me about her terrible boss who CC'd everyone on emails just to cover himself. I told her about the time I'd had to explain to a lawyer that no, we couldn't retrofit his office to be completely soundproof without removing all the windows. She'd been easy to talk to, easy to be around, easy to love. When did that change? When did I become someone she had to tolerate instead of someone she chose? I heard her footsteps on the stairs around midnight, heard her pause outside the guest room door. Waiting, maybe, for me to call out, to apologize for being petty, to come back to bed and pretend everything was normal. I stayed silent. After a moment, she continued to the bedroom. The door clicked shut. I stared at the ceiling and thought about systems, about how they work until they don't, about how sometimes the problem isn't a sudden failure, it's a slow degradation you don't notice until everything's already broken. The next morning, I left before she woke up, made coffee in a travel mug, skipped breakfast, drove to the Riverside complex where we were midway through replacing a 40-year-old heating system that should have been condemned a decade ago. Tommy was already there, standing in the parking lot with 2 other guys from the crew, all of them looking at something on his phone and laughing. "What's funny?" I said, climbing out of my truck. "Nothing." Tommy pocketed his phone, grinning. He was my age, 34, but looked older. Too much sun, too many cigarettes. We'd worked together for 6 years, and he was the closest thing I had to a best friend, which probably said something sad about my social life. "You look terrible." "Slept in the guest room." "Ooh," he winced. "What did you do?" "Nothing. Emily decided we're friends now." "Friends?" "Just friends. Apparently we've been growing apart, and she's being honest about where we are." I grabbed my tool bag from the truck bed. "So I'm treating her like a friend. No dates, no shared plans, separate bedrooms." Tommy laughed, then stopped when he saw my face. "Wait, you're serious?" "Dead serious." "Man, that's cold." "She started it." "Yeah, but..." He shook his head. "That's going to make things worse." "Good." We walked into the building together, our boots echoing in the empty lobby. The Riverside complex was one of those corporate office buildings that tried too hard to look modern. All glass and steel and minimalist furniture no one was allowed to actually sit on. We'd been working here for 3 weeks, tearing out old ductwork and installing new systems, and I still couldn't figure out what half the companies on the tenant list actually did. "You think she's seeing someone?" Tommy said as we headed to the elevator. The question landed heavier than it should have. "I don't know." "Because that's usually what 'let's be friends' means. She's clearing the deck." "Thanks, Tommy. Very helpful." "I'm just saying." He hit the button for the 3rd floor. Women don't usually blow up a marriage unless they've got something lined up. It's like switching jobs. You don't quit until you've got the next thing ready. The elevator lurched upward. I watched the numbers climb. "She works late a lot," Tommy continued. "That's when it usually happens. Office affairs, someone who understands her, someone who listens. All that. Can we not do this right now?" "Yeah, sure, sorry." The doors opened. We stepped out into a hallway that smelled like drywall dust and machine oil, but the thought was there now, planted, growing roots. Emily had been working late. A lot. 2, sometimes 3 nights a week, she'd text me around 7 saying she was still at the office, she'd grab something on the way home, don't wait up. I'd assumed she was telling the truth because why wouldn't I? We were married, we trusted each other. Except now we were friends, and friends don't owe each other explanations. I got home around 6. Emily's car was in the driveway, which was unusual. Normally on Tuesdays she had some networking event, or client dinner, or team meeting that kept her out until 9. I found her in the kitchen, standing at the stove, cooking. Actually cooking. She'd changed out of her work clothes into yoga pants and an old college sweatshirt, and her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Hey," she said when I walked in. "I made pasta. There's enough if you want some." I stopped in the doorway, suspicious. "Why?" "Why did I make dinner?" "Yeah." She stirred the pot, not looking at me. "I thought maybe we could talk. About last night. I think I came across harsher than I meant to." There it was. The backpedal, the softening. Not an apology, exactly. Emily didn't apologize when she thought she was right, but an attempt to smooth things over, to restore equilibrium. "I'm going to Tommy's," I said. "Told him I'd help him move some equipment, remember?" "I thought that was Friday." "We're doing some tonight, too. Big job." She turned off the burner. "Ryan, come on. I'm trying here." "Trying what?" "To fix this. To talk about it like adults." I set my tool bag down by the door. Kept my voice level. "Emily, you told me you see me as a friend. That's fine. That's your choice. But friends don't owe each other dinners and apologies and emotional conversations. Friends are casual, low-key, no pressure, so I'm being your friend, exactly like you asked. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? She stared at me, and for a second I saw something flicker across her face. Uncertainty, maybe, or the first hint of realization that this wasn't going the way she'd expected. I meant we need space to figure out what we want, she said finally, not to stop caring about each other completely. I care about you, like I care about all my friends. I picked up my bag. I'll be back late. Don't wait up. I left her standing there in the kitchen, the smell of pasta sauce heavy in the air. Tommy didn't actually need help moving equipment. He knew it. I knew it. But he played along, handed me a beer when I showed up, and we sat in his garage watching a hockey game on a small TV that got 2 channels and made everyone look vaguely green. So, you're really doing this? He said during the second period. Doing what? The ice out thing. Treating her like she doesn't matter. I'm treating her exactly how she asked to be treated. Yeah, but you know what she's going to do, right? Tommy took a swig of his beer. She's going to escalate. Women always do. She'll pick a fight or do something to get a reaction out of you. And if you don't react, she'll do something worse. Like what? I don't know. Whatever gets under your skin. He shrugged. My ex used to rearrange my tools, completely random. I'd go to grab a wrench and it'd be in the wrong drawer. Drove me insane. That's what women do. They find the thing that bothers you and they poke it until you snap. Emily's not like that. Every woman's like that. I didn't argue. Didn't have the energy. Just sat there drinking beer and half watching hockey and thinking about Emily standing in the kitchen, confused that her peace offering hadn't worked. She'd expected me to fold, to accept whatever crumbs of attention she offered and be grateful for them. Because that's what I'd always done before. Smoothed things over, made it easy for her, absorbed the friction so we could pretend everything was fine. Not anymore. When I got home around 11, the house was dark, except for a single light in the upstairs hallway. Emily's bedroom door was closed. I stood at the bottom of the stairs for a minute, listening. No sound. I went to the guest room, closed the door, and lay down on the uncomfortable mattress. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. We need to talk tomorrow. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I turned off my phone without replying. She tried again the next morning. I was making coffee when she came downstairs, already dressed for work in one of those outfits she spent too much money on. Tailored pants, silk blouse, heels that clicked against the hardwood. She looked polished. Professional. Like she was about to negotiate a contract. Good morning, she said. Morning. And did you see my text? Yeah. She waited. When I didn't elaborate, she poured herself coffee, added cream and sugar, stirred slowly. So can we talk? Tonight? I've got a thing. What thing? Just a thing. I grabbed my travel mug. I'll let you know when I'm free. Ryan. She set down her spoon, and there was an edge to her voice now, the patience wearing thin. This is childish. What is? This. Avoiding me. Refusing to have a conversation. I looked at her. Really looked at her. At the careful makeup, the styled hair, the outfit chosen to project confidence and control. Everything about her screamed effort, but none of that effort was for me. It was for whoever she saw when she looked in the mirror, for whoever she was becoming. We had a conversation, I said. You told me how you feel. I'm respecting that. What else is there to talk about? About what happens now. About how we move forward. We're friends. We live together. We pay bills together. That's it. Friends don't need to schedule relationship talks. Her jaw tightened. You're being impossible. I'm being consistent. I left before she could respond, walked out to my truck, and sat there for a minute with the engine running. Through the kitchen window, I could see her standing exactly where I'd left her, coffee cup in hand, staring at nothing. She looked smaller than usual. Uncertain. Good. The pattern held for 3 more days. Emily tried different approaches. She tried casual, asking about my day, offering to pick up takeout, suggesting we watch a movie together. I kept my responses short, polite, distant. She tried direct, cornering me in the hallway, demanding we figure this out. I told her there was nothing to figure out. She'd set the terms. I was following them. She tried guilt, pointing out that I was making things harder than they needed to be, that she was trying to preserve what we had. I asked what exactly we had left to preserve. By Saturday, she'd stopped trying. I spent the morning at the Riverside complex, finishing up some ductwork on the 4th floor. Tommy was in a mood, complaining about his landlord and his truck and the coffee from the gas station that tasted like hot dirt. I let him vent, made the appropriate noises, kept working. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Going out for lunch with some people from work. Won't be home until late. I read it twice. Some people from work. Vague, non-specific. The kind of text you send when you don't want questions. Everything okay? Tommy asked. I pocketed my phone. Yeah, fine. But it wasn't fine because I knew what some people from work meant. I knew the tone, the careful wording, the preemptive explanation. Emily was making sure I knew she had plans, that she had a life outside our apartment, outside me, that she wasn't sitting around waiting for me to come home. And maybe, probably, those plans included someone else. I thought about Tommy's words from earlier in the week. Women don't usually blow up a marriage unless they've got something lined up. I finished the ductwork in silence. She came home around 10 that night. I heard her car in the driveway, heard the front door open and close, heard her heels on the hardwood as she walked through the house. I was in the guest room, laptop open, pretending to review work orders. She knocked on the door. Ryan? Yeah. Can I come in? It's your house. The door opened. She stood in the doorway, still dressed for her outing. Nice jeans, a blouse I didn't recognize, makeup that looked freshly touched up. She smelled like wine and perfume. We need to stop this, she said. Stop what? This, whatever this is. This silent treatment, this punishment. I closed my laptop. I'm not punishing you. I'm giving you space. You're freezing me out. No, I'm treating you like a friend, which is what you said you wanted. I didn't mean... She stopped, frustrated. I didn't mean for you to shut down completely. Then what did you mean? She leaned against the doorframe, and for the first time since this whole thing started, she looked tired. Genuinely tired. Not just physically, but emotionally. Like the weight of whatever she was doing, whatever plan she was executing, was starting to catch up with her. I meant we need to be honest about the fact that things haven't been good between us, she said quietly. That we've been coasting, going through the motions. I thought if we acknowledged it, we could figure out what to do next. Together. And did you figure it out tonight? I asked. With your coworkers? Her expression shifted. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just wondering how lunch turned into a 10-hour outing. We went to a wine tasting. It ran late. Sounds fun. Ryan, I hope you had a good time. I opened my laptop again, dismissing her. Really, friends should have fun. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she turned and walked out, closing the door harder than necessary. I sat there in the dark, listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway, and I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calm, focused, clear. Because Emily had made a miscalculation. She'd assumed that by declaring us friends, by stripping away the obligations of marriage, she'd gain freedom without consequences. She could explore whoever she wanted, while keeping me as a safe backup, a reliable constant. But she'd forgotten something important. Friends don't have to stay, friends can walk away any time, and I was just getting started. Monday morning, I stopped at the coffee shop on 7th Street, the one Emily and I used to go to on weekends, back when weekends together meant something. The barista recognized me, gave me that sympathetic look people give when they know something's wrong but don't want to ask. Just the one today? She said. Just the one. I'd been getting 2 coffees every Monday for 3 years. Emily's with oat milk and an extra shot, mine black with 1 sugar. A small routine that had felt significant once. The barista handed me a single cup. Everything okay? Everything's fine, I said, and meant it. I drove to the Riverside complex where Tommy was already setting up for the day. The job was almost done. Another week, maybe 2, and we'd be moving on to the next building, the next broken system that needed fixing. You look better, Tommy said when I walked in. I feel better. Yeah? He raised an eyebrow. Emily finally come around? No, I did. I spent the day working in a kind of focused calm I hadn't felt in months. No distractions, no checking my phone every 10 minutes to see if Emily had texted, no mental energy wasted on figuring out what she was thinking or feeling or planning. She'd made her position clear. Now I was making mine clear too. Around 3, my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Can you pick up milk on your way home? I stared at it. Such a casual request. The kind of thing married people ask each other without thinking. But we weren't married, not in any way that mattered. We were roommates, friends. I typed back, I'll be late tonight. You should grab it. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Fine. No question about where I'd be or when I'd be back. No curiosity. Just irritation wrapped in 4 letters. Everything good? Tommy asked, glancing over. Yeah. but I was thinking about those 3 dots, about the pause before she replied, about how she'd wanted to say more but hadn't. She was starting to feel it, the shift, the absence. Good. I didn't go home until almost 9. Grabbed dinner at a diner I'd never been to, sat at the counter, ate a mediocre burger while watching the evening news on a TV mounted too high in the corner. The waitress, a woman in her 50s with a smoker's voice and tired eyes, refilled my coffee without asking. Long day? Something like that. You look like you've got a lot on your mind, I glanced at her. That obvious? Honey, I've been working here 23 years. I can read people. She leaned against the counter. Whatever it is, it'll work out, or it won't. Either way, you'll survive. I paid my check and left her a good tip. When I finally walked into the apartment, all the lights were off except for the one in the living room. Emily was on the couch, laptop open, papers spread around her. She looked up when I came in, and something flickered across her face. Relief? Annoyance? Hard to tell. You're home, she said. I'm home. I wasn't sure if you were coming back tonight. I hung my jacket by the door. Why wouldn't I? Because you've been avoiding me for a week. I haven't been avoiding you. I've been giving you space. Ryan, she closed her laptop. This needs to stop. We need to talk about what's happening here. What's happening here, I said slowly, is exactly what you wanted. You said you see me as a friend, so I'm your friend. I come and go as I please. I don't check in. I don't explain myself. Friends don't do that. Friends also don't act like strangers. We are strangers, Emily. We've been strangers for months. You just finally admitted it. She stood up, papers sliding to the floor. I didn't mean for things to be like this. Then what did you mean? I meant... She hesitated, searching for words. I meant we needed to acknowledge that something's broken, that we've been pretending everything's fine when it's not. I thought if we were honest about it, we could fix it. You can't fix something you've already given up on. I haven't given up. Yeah? I looked at her, really looked at her, at the perfectly styled hair even at 9 o'clock at night, at the outfit that was too nice for working from home, at the phone face down on the couch next to her like she didn't want me to see the screen. Then what have you been doing? Her expression went carefully neutral. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, just curious. I headed toward the stairs. I'm going to bed. We're not done talking. I stopped on the landing, looked back at her. She was standing in the middle of the living room, papers at her feet, and she looked lost. Like she'd expected this conversation to go differently and didn't have a backup plan. Emily, we've been done for a while now, I said quietly. You're just realizing it. I went upstairs before she could respond. That night, I lay in the guest room and did something I hadn't done before. I paid attention to the sounds of the house, to the rhythm of Emily's movements. I heard her downstairs for another hour, the soft tap of her laptop keyboard, the rustle of papers, the refrigerator opening and closing. Then I heard her come upstairs, heard her pause outside my door again. But this time, I also heard something else, the soft buzz of her phone, a notification maybe, or a call on vibrate. Then her footsteps moving quickly to her bedroom. The door closing. Silence. I waited. 10 minutes later, I heard her voice. Muffled, barely audible through the wall, but definitely talking. Not loud enough to make out words, but the rhythm was there. Conversational, casual, the tone you use with someone you're comfortable with. The call lasted 20 minutes. When she finally went quiet, I checked the time. 10:47 p.m. Who calls someone at 10:47 p.m. on a Monday? I lay there in the dark, thinking about patterns, about systems, about how people reveal themselves not in big moments, but in small ones, in the things they think no one notices. Emily thought I wasn't paying attention anymore. She thought my withdrawal meant I'd checked out completely. She was wrong. I was paying more attention now than I ever had. The next 3 days, I watched. Not obviously, not in a way she'd notice. But I started tracking the small things, the patterns that had always been there but I'd never bothered to see. Tuesday, Emily left for work at 7:30 a.m., came home at 6:15 p.m. Normal. But she checked her phone constantly during dinner, smiling at something she didn't share. When I asked what was funny, she said, "Just work stuff." Wednesday, she had a late meeting and didn't get home until 9:30 p.m. She changed clothes between leaving for work and coming home. The blouse she'd worn in the morning was different from the one she was wearing when she walked in. When I mentioned it, she said she'd spilled coffee and had a spare in her office. Thursday, I came home early, something I never did, and found her on the couch, feet tucked under her, phone pressed to her ear, laughing. When she saw me, the laugh cut off mid-sound. She wrapped up the call quickly, casually, like it was nothing. "Who was that?" I asked. "Just someone from work." "They're funny." "What?" "Whoever you were talking to. You were laughing." She shrugged. He's got a good sense of humor." There it was, not even trying to hide it anymore. I didn't react, just nodded, went to the kitchen, made myself dinner while she sat in the living room, phone silent now, staring at the TV without really watching it. That night, I heard her on the phone again. Same time, 10:47 p.m. Same muffled conversation through the wall. And something inside me clicked into place. A plan. Not formed yet, but forming. Taking shape. Because Emily had miscalculated. She'd thought by keeping me close, by maintaining the appearance of normalcy while she explored whatever this was, she could control the situation, manage the transition, keep her options open. But she'd forgotten that I was good at fixing systems. And when something's broken beyond repair, sometimes the best solution isn't to fix it. It's to dismantle it completely. Friday, I took the day off. Told Tommy I had personal business to handle. He didn't ask questions, just gave me a look that said he knew exactly what kind of personal business I meant. I spent the morning at home, moving through the apartment like a ghost. Not hiding, exactly, but not making my presence known either. Emily left for work at her usual time, dressed in a navy skirt and white blouse, heels clicking against the floor. She paused at the door, keys in hand. "You're home today?" "Taking a day." "Oh, okay." She hesitated, like she wanted to say more. "Do you have plans?" "Just errands." "Right." Another pause. "I'll probably be late again tonight. That project I mentioned is wrapping up and You don't have to explain," I said. Friends don't track each other's schedules. Something crossed her face. Guilt, maybe. Or frustration that I wasn't giving her the reaction she wanted. She left without saying goodbye. I waited 20 minutes, then got in my truck and drove to her office. Not to confront her, not to cause a scene, just to observe. Emily worked in a converted warehouse downtown that housed 3 different companies. Her firm, Mitchell & Associates, occupied the second floor. I parked across the street 2 blocks down where I had a clear view of the main entrance, and I waited. 11 o'clock came and went. Noon, 1. At 1:15, Emily walked out the front door. She wasn't alone. The man next to her was tall, maybe 6'1", with dark hair styled in that deliberately messy way that takes effort. He wore expensive jeans and a fitted blazer, no tie. Sunglasses, even though it was overcast. He said something, and Emily laughed. That same laugh I'd heard on the phone. Easy, genuine. They walked to the parking lot, still talking, still laughing. When they reached a black Audi, his, I assumed, he opened the passenger door for her. She got in. They drove away together. I sat in my truck for 5 more minutes, hands on the steering wheel, breathing slowly. So there it was. Confirmation. Not that I'd really needed it, but seeing it, seeing her climb into his car, seeing the familiarity between them, it made everything concrete. Emily wasn't just checking out of our marriage. She'd already moved on. I drove home, parked in the driveway, and went inside. The apartment felt different now, smaller, less like a home and more like a set. A carefully constructed illusion that both of us were pretending to believe in. I walked through the rooms, looking at things I'd stopped seeing months ago. The photos on the wall, our wedding, a trip to Portland, a Christmas party where we both looked happy. Emily's things scattered everywhere, her books, her shoes, her coffee mug with the chipped handle she refused to throw away, evidence of a life we'd built together, or thought we'd built. I picked up one of the photos, our wedding day, Emily in white, me in a rented tux that fit poorly. We looked young, hopeful, like we actually believed the promises we were making. I set the photo face down on the shelf. Then I went to the guest room, pulled out my laptop, and started planning. Emily came home at 9:45 p.m. I was in the living room, TV on, watching nothing. She walked in carrying takeout bags, and when she saw me, she stopped. "Hey," she said, "I brought Thai food. I got extra in case you hadn't eaten." I ate. "Oh." She set the bags on the counter. "Well, there's leftovers if you want some later." "Thanks." She moved around the kitchen, putting containers in the fridge, throwing away the bags. Normal domestic choreography, except nothing about it felt normal anymore. "How was your day?" she asked, not looking at me. "Fine. Yours?" "Busy. You know how it is." She closed the fridge, leaned against the counter. "Ryan, I've been thinking. Maybe we should see a counselor, someone who can help us figure out. Figure out what? What we want, how to move forward." You've already figured out what you want, I said. You don't need a counselor to tell you that. That's not fair. Isn't it? I turned off the TV, stood up. You've been seeing someone. The air in the room changed, went cold and still. Emily's face went carefully blank. What? You've been seeing someone, I repeated, keeping my voice level. I don't know how long it's been going on, and honestly, I don't care. But don't insult me by pretending it's not happening. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I'm not, Emily, I looked at her. I'm not asking you to explain. I'm not asking for details. I'm just telling you that I know, so you can stop pretending. She stared at me, and for a moment, I saw real fear in her eyes. Not fear of me, fear of losing control, of the narrative she'd been building collapsing before she was ready. It's not what you think, she said finally. I don't think anything. Like I said, I don't care. You don't care? Her voice rose. We're married, Ryan. You're supposed to care. Hey, we're friends, remember? Friends don't get jealous. Friends are supportive. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the couch. I hope he makes you happy. Really, you deserve to be happy. Where are you going? Out. Ryan, wait. I left before she could finish. Walked out into the night air, got in my truck, and drove. I didn't have a destination. Didn't need one. I just drove through streets I'd driven 1,000 times, past buildings I'd worked on, through neighborhoods that all looked the same in the dark, and I felt nothing. No anger. No hurt. No desperate need to fix this. Just a cold, clear certainty. Emily had made her choice. She'd chosen to betray me, to lie to me, to dismantle our marriage while pretending everything was fine. Fine. I could live with that. What she couldn't live with, what she was about to learn, was that I could make choices too, and mine were going to be much worse for her than hers had been for me. I drove for an hour before heading back. When I pulled into the driveway, all the lights in the apartment were off except for Emily's bedroom. I went straight to the guest room, closed the door, and started making a list. The thing about surveillance is that it sounds dramatic. Criminal. Like something from a movie where people wear dark clothes and hide behind newspapers. The reality is much more boring. Surveillance is just paying attention, watching patterns, connecting dots. And Emily had patterns. I started tracking them properly on Saturday. She told me she was going to the gym, then meeting a friend for lunch. Standard weekend routine. Except she took longer than usual getting ready, changed outfits twice, redid her makeup, spent 20 minutes on her hair for a casual workout. I waited 30 minutes after she left, then followed. Not closely. I stayed 3 cars back, drove like I had somewhere else to be. Basic stuff. She wouldn't have noticed even if she'd been looking, which she wasn't. People never think they're being followed. She didn't go to the gym. She drove straight to a coffee shop on Lexington Avenue, the trendy kind with exposed brick and Edison bulbs and a chalkboard menu that takes 10 minutes to decipher. I parked down the block, watched her walk inside. 3 minutes later, the Audi pulled up. He got out, same guy from her office, same carefully messy hair, and walked inside like he owned the place. Through the window, I could see them meet near the back. He kissed her cheek. She touched his arm. They sat down at a corner table. I sat in my truck and watched them for 45 minutes. They looked comfortable together, natural, the way Emily and I used to look in the early days when conversation came easy and silence didn't feel heavy. She laughed at something he said, leaned forward, interested. He reached across the table, took her hand. She let him. I pulled out my phone, almost took a photo. Stopped myself. Because what was the point? I didn't need evidence. I wasn't building a case for divorce court. I wasn't trying to win her back or make her admit anything. I just needed to know. And now I did. I drove home, beat Emily back by 20 minutes. When she walked in, gym bag over her shoulder, face flushed like she'd actually been working out, I was on the couch reading. Hey, she said, dropping her bag by the door. How was your day? Quiet. Yours? Good. Got a good workout in. She stretched, performing the lie. I'm going to shower. Cool. She paused halfway to the stairs. Ryan? Yeah? Are we okay? I looked up from my book. Why wouldn't we be? I don't know. You've just been really distant lately. I thought that's what you wanted. I wanted honesty, not this. This is honesty, I said. This is what it looks like when I stop pretending. She stared at me for a long moment, then went upstairs without another word. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was angry or hurt. Those feelings had calcified into something colder, harder. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, and thought about systems again. Every system has a weak point, a vulnerability. The thing that, if you press on it hard enough, causes everything to collapse. For HVAC systems, it's usually the pressure differential. For electrical, it's the load balance. For plumbing, it's the seal integrity. For people, it's their secrets. Emily's secret was the guy from the coffee shop, the Audi driver. Mr. Carefully Messy Hair who touched her hand across the table. But his secret, whoever he was, that was something I could use. I grabbed my laptop, opened a private browser window, and started digging. Emily worked for Mitchell & Associates. Small firm, maybe 20 employees. Their website had a team page with photos and bios. I scrolled through, looking for him, found him on the third row. James Brennan, account director. Background in pharmaceutical consulting, MBA from some school I'd never heard of. Divorced 2 years ago. No kids mentioned. I clicked through to his LinkedIn. Lots of buzzwords. Strategic initiatives. Client-focused solutions. Synergistic partnerships. The kind of language people use when they don't want to admit their job is boring. But there was something else. Something in his posts, his photos. He was careful about his image. Every picture was curated. The right angle, the right lighting, the right amount of casual but professional. He cared about perception, about how people saw him. That was useful. I kept digging, found his Instagram, public, because of course it was, more curated photos, him at restaurants, him at the gym, him on a boat with friends, all of them holding drinks and wearing sunglasses and trying very hard to look like they weren't trying. No photos with Emily, too risky. But there were comments on some of his posts from people I recognized from her office. Inside jokes, casual familiarity. They all knew. Everyone at her office knew Emily was seeing James Brennan, except me, the husband. I closed my laptop and lay back down, but my mind was still running. James Brennan cared about his image, about perception, about maintaining the carefully constructed version of himself he presented to the world. What would happen if that image cracked? Sunday morning, Emily tried again. She came downstairs around 9, found me in the kitchen making coffee. She'd put on real clothes, jeans and a sweater, like she was planning to go somewhere. "Morning," she said. "Morning. I was thinking we could do something today. Together. Maybe drive out to that orchard we went to last fall?" I poured my coffee, didn't look at her. "I've got stuff to do." "What stuff?" "Just stuff." "Ryan." She moved closer, and I could smell her shampoo, something expensive and floral that she'd started using a few months ago. "Please, I'm trying." "Trying to what?" "To fix this. To make things better between us." I finally looked at her. "Emily, you can't fix something you've already destroyed." "I haven't destroyed anything." "Yeah? Then what do you call what you've been doing with James?" Her face went white. "How did you? Does it matter?" I took a sip of coffee. "You wanted honesty, right?" "Well, here's some honesty. I know you're seeing someone. I know it's him. I know you've been lying to me for weeks, maybe months. I know everyone at your office knows. And I know you're standing here right now pretending you want to fix our marriage while you're probably planning to see him later today." She didn't deny it. Couldn't, just stood there, frozen. "So no," I said. "I'm not going to the orchard with you, because that would be weird. Friends don't do couple activities." I walked past her, headed toward the stairs. "Ryan, wait. I'm going to take a shower. You should probably call James. Let him know you're free after all." I left her standing in the kitchen. She was gone when I came back downstairs. No note, no text, just gone. I spent the rest of the day at the apartment, cleaning. Not because it needed it, but because I needed to do something with my hands. I vacuumed, scrubbed the bathroom, organized the junk drawer in the kitchen that we'd been meaning to deal with for a year. Normal domestic tasks that felt surreal in the context of everything else. Around 4, Tommy called. "You busy?" he said when I answered. "Not really." "Want to grab a beer? You sound like you could use one." I almost said no, then realized I actually did want a beer, and a conversation that wasn't with Emily. "Yeah, okay, where?" "O'Malley's. I'm already here." 20 minutes later, I was sliding onto a bar stool next to Tommy, who was halfway through a pint and watching a football game he clearly didn't care about. "So," he said when the bartender brought my beer. "You want to talk about it?" "Not really." "Yeah, that's what I figured." He took a drink. "But I'm going to ask anyway. What happened?" "I told Emily I know about James." Tommy whistled low. "How'd that go?" "About how you'd expect." "She admit it?" "Didn't have to. Her face said everything." We sat in silence for a while, watching the game. The bar was half empty, quiet except for the TV and the occasional clink of glasses. "So what now?" Tommy asked finally. "I don't know." "You going to divorce her?" "Probably." "You going to beat his face in?" I looked at him. "What?" "James. You going to confront him? Make him regret it?" "No." "Why not?" "Because that's what she'd expect me to do." I turned my beer slowly on the coaster. "She's waiting for me to explode, to yell, to cry, to make a scene. That's how she justifies it to herself. Ryan was so angry, so unreasonable, that's why I had to leave. But if I don't give her that—" "You take away her narrative," Tommy finished. "Exactly." He nodded slowly. "That's cold, man." "She started it." "Yeah, but still." He flagged the bartender for another round. "You've really changed, you know that? 2 weeks ago you were still trying to save your marriage. Now you're talking about psychological warfare." 2 weeks ago I thought there was something to save." We drank in silence. The game ended. Another one started. The bar filled up, then emptied out again. "For what it's worth," Tommy said around 9, "I think you're handling this better than most guys would." "Yeah? Yeah. Most guys would have lost their minds by now. Would have done something stupid. You're keeping your head." "Thanks." "But Ryan?" He looked at me. "Whatever you're planning, and I know you're planning something, be careful. Don't do anything you can't take back." "I won't." He didn't look convinced. "I'm serious. Revenge seems like a good idea until you're living with the consequences." "I'm not looking for revenge," I said. "I'm just making sure she understands what she's losing." Tommy laughed. "Man, that's the same thing." Maybe it was. I drove home around 10. Emily's car was in the driveway, all the lights in the apartment on. I sat in my truck for 5 minutes, gathering myself, then went inside. She was in the living room, waiting. I could tell by the way she was sitting, upright, tense, hands folded in her lap, the posture of someone who'd been rehearsing a conversation. "We need to talk," she said when I walked in. "Okay. I mean really talk. About everything." I hung my jacket up, didn't sit down. "So talk." She took a breath. "You're right. About James. We've been seeing each other for about 2 months. It started as just friendship, but it became more, and I should have told you sooner. I should have been honest." "Okay." She blinked. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say?" "I don't know. Something. Anything." Her voice cracked. "You're just standing there like you don't even care." "I care," I said quietly. "I care that you lied. I care that you betrayed me. I care that everyone at your office knew about your relationship before I did. But getting angry about it won't change anything. So yeah, that's all I have to say." "Ryan, is there anything else?" She stared at me, and I saw something break in her expression. The realization, maybe, that she'd lost something she couldn't get back. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know." I walked upstairs, closed the door to the guest room, and didn't come out for the rest of the night. Monday morning, I called in sick to work. First time in 2 years. Tommy sounded surprised when I texted him. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just need a day. Let me know if you need anything." I waited until Emily left for work. She barely looked at me, just grabbed her coffee and walked out. Then I got in my truck and drove to Mitchell & Associates. The parking lot was half full when I arrived at 8:30. I found the Audi easily enough. Black, sleek, too expensive for someone in middle management. Vanity plates, J. Brennan, subtle. I parked 3 spots away and waited. At noon, the lunch crowd started filtering out. Groups of 2 and 3 heading to their cars or walking toward the restaurants down the block. I watched them all, patient. At 12:20, James Brennan walked out. Alone, no Emily. He was on his phone, laughing at something, not paying attention. He walked to the Audi, clicked the key fob. I got out of my truck. "James Brennan?" He looked up, confused. "Yeah?" I walked toward him, hands in my pockets. Casual, non-threatening. "I'm Ryan, Emily's husband." The confusion turned to recognition, then something else. Wariness. "Oh," he said. "Listen, Relax, I'm not here to cause a scene." I stopped a few feet away. "I just wanted to meet you, face to face, man to man." He glanced around the parking lot. Checking for witnesses, probably, or an escape route. Okay," he said slowly. "We're meeting. You know what's interesting?" I kept my voice conversational. "Emily never mentioned you. Not once. 2 months, and she never said your name. Made me wonder why. Ryan, look, I don't want any trouble. Neither do I smiled. I'm just making an observation. See, I'm a facilities manager. I fix things for a living, and when something's broken, the first step is understanding how it broke. So I've been trying to understand how my marriage broke. James's hand tightened on his phone. I think maybe we should do this another time, somewhere more appropriate. This is appropriate, public, neutral. I looked at the Audi. Nice car. Lease or own? What? The car. Did you buy it or lease it? I don't see how that's relevant. Everything's relevant. I walked closer. Not threatening, just closing the distance. See, I've been learning a lot about you, James. About your life, your job, your divorce, your social media presence. You're very careful about how you present yourself. Very curated. Why are you? Because I want you to understand something. I stopped right in front of him, close enough that he had to look up slightly to meet my eyes. Emily thinks she can do whatever she wants without consequences. She thinks she can lie to me, betray me, and I'll just accept it. But she's wrong. And you're going to help me show her that? His face went pale. I'm not helping you do anything. Yeah, you are. I smiled again. See, you've got something to lose here, James. Reputation, image, that carefully constructed life you've built. And I've got nothing to lose. I'm already burned. So ask yourself, what happens when someone with nothing to lose decides to make things uncomfortable for someone who has everything to lose? Are you threatening me? I'm explaining a situation. I stepped back, gave him space. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop seeing Emily. You're going to tell her it's over, and you're going to make it clear that it was your decision, not mine, yours. And if I don't? I pulled out my phone, opened a photo, one I'd taken yesterday from my truck. James and Emily at the coffee shop, holding hands across the table. Then this goes to your boss, I said, and to HR, and to anyone else who might find it interesting that an account director is having a relationship with a colleague. Office romances are tricky, aren't they? Especially when one person is in a higher position than the other. Power dynamics and all that. Companies tend to frown on it. James stared at the photo. Emily's not my subordinate. No, but she works on your accounts. Reports to the same senior partners you do. Close enough to make people ask questions. I pocketed my phone. Or maybe the photo goes somewhere more public. Social media. Those neighborhood watch groups on Facebook where everyone shares everyone's business. Small world we live in, James. Reputations are fragile. You're bluffing. Try me. We stood there in the parking lot. Midday sun beating down. The sounds of traffic and distant conversations filling the silence between us. James broke first. Fine, he said. I'll end it. Good. Do it today. I'll tell her tonight. No, today. Right now. Call her. Ryan. Call her, I said again, harder this time. Or I start making calls of my own. He looked at me, and I saw it in his eyes. The calculation, the weighing of options, the realization that I meant every word. He pulled out his phone, dialed. I stepped back, gave him the illusion of privacy, but stayed close enough to hear. Hey, he said when Emily answered. Yeah, hi, listen, we need to talk. Pause. No, it can't wait. Another pause. Look, this thing between us, it's not working. I think we should end it. I could hear Emily's voice, high and confused, but couldn't make out the words. I'm serious, James continued. It's too complicated. Your situation with Ryan, the office dynamics, it's just too much. More talking from Emily's end. No, this is my decision. I've been thinking about it for a while, and yeah, I'm sorry, I really am. But this is it. He ended the call before she could respond. Done, he said, not looking at me. Good. Now delete her number. What? Delete it. Right now. I want to watch. He hesitated, then did it. Pulled up her contact, hit delete. Happy now, he said. Not really, but we're getting there. I turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. If you tell Emily I was here, if you tell her about this conversation, the deal's off. Everything I have goes public, understand? He nodded. Say it. I understand. I walked back to my truck, got in, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw James standing next to his Audi, phone still in his hand, looking like someone had just knocked the wind out of him. Good. My phone started ringing 40 minutes later. Emily. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail again. Then a text. James just broke up with me. Did you do something? I stared at the text, then deleted it without responding. She called 3 more times, sent 4 more texts, each one more frantic than the last. Ryan, answer your phone. I know you did something. What did you say to him? Answer me. I turned my phone off. That evening, I went to the gym. Not to work out. I hadn't been to a gym in years. But I needed to be somewhere public, somewhere Emily couldn't corner me. I sat in the parking lot watching people come and go. Young couples, older couples, people alone, focused, working through their own problems in sets and reps. My phone buzzed. I turned it back on out of curiosity. 16 missed calls from Emily. 12 texts. I didn't read them. And around 7, I drove home. Her car was in the driveway. All the lights were on. She met me at the door. What did you do? She said before I'd even stepped inside. What are you talking about? James. What did you say to him? I didn't say anything to him. Liar. Her voice was shaking. He broke up with me out of nowhere, after what we... She stopped, gathered herself. I know you did something. I closed the door behind me. Emily, why would I do something? You told me you wanted to be friends. Friends are supportive. I'm being supportive. Stop it. Stop playing games. I'm not playing games. James made a choice. That's on him, not me. He wouldn't just... She was crying now. Actually crying. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen her cry. We were happy. We had plans. He was going to... She cut herself off, but I heard what she didn't say. He was going to what? Leave his job? Move in with her? Marry her? Maybe he realized it wasn't worth it, I said quietly. Maybe he realized that dating a married woman is complicated, messy, bad for his career. You threatened him? I talked to him. Man to man, that's all. What did you say? I told him the truth, that actions have consequences, that choices matter. I looked at her, really looked at her, at the tears running down her face, the mascara smudging, the desperation in her eyes. You wanted honesty, Emily. Well, here's some honesty. You don't get to have both of us. You don't get to keep me as a backup while you explore something new. You made a choice. Now you have to live with it. I didn't choose this. Yeah, you did. You chose it the second you decided you saw me as a friend. You chose it every time you lied about where you were. You chose it when you got in his car and let him hold your hand and made plans for a future that didn't include me. She was sobbing now, full ugly sobs. I made a mistake. I know. I want to fix it. You can't. Ryan, please. Go to bed, Emily. I stepped around her, headed for the stairs. We're done here. I love you. I stopped, hand on the railing, and almost turned around. Almost let those 3 words crack through the cold certainty I'd built up. But then I remembered her laughing in James's car, her hand in his, the carefully curated lies. No, I said. You don't. You love the idea of me, the safety net. But you don't love me. If you did, we wouldn't be here. I went upstairs and closed the door. She didn't follow, didn't knock. I heard her downstairs for another hour, moving around, crying, then finally going silent. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling nothing. Not satisfaction, not guilt, just a strange, empty calm. I'd dismantled her plan, taken away the thing she thought would save her, and now she was realizing what I'd known for weeks. There was no going back. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. James. Had to be. I didn't respond, just blocked the number and turned off my phone. Tomorrow, I'd deal with whatever came next. Tonight, I'd sleep better than I had in months. Wednesday morning, Emily didn't go to work. I heard her moving around downstairs around 7, later than usual, but when I came down at 7:30, she was still in her pajamas, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold. She looked up when I walked in. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her face pale. She hadn't slept. Morning, I said, pouring my own coffee. Ryan. Her voice was hoarse. Can we please talk? Really talk? We talked last night. No, you talked. You told me how you felt and then walked away. She stood up, came toward me. I need you to listen. I need you to understand. Understand what? That you made a mistake? That you're sorry? I already know that, Emily. The problem is I don't care anymore. Her face crumpled. How can you say that? Because it's true. I took a sip of coffee. You wanted honesty. This is me being honest. Whatever we had, it's gone. You can't apologize your way back from what you did. So that's it? 8 years and you're just done? You were done first. I'm just catching up. She started crying again. Quieter this time. Defeated. I grabbed my lunch from the fridge, my keys from the counter. I'm going to work. You should probably get ready too. unless you're calling in sick. I can't go in there, she said. I can't face everyone knowing. Knowing what? That you had a relationship with a coworker? That it ended badly? I looked at her. Welcome to consequences, Emily. I left her standing in the kitchen. Tommy noticed the shift immediately. You seem lighter today, he said when I showed up at the Riverside complex. Do I? Yeah, like you got something off your chest. Maybe I did. We worked in comfortable silence for most of the morning. Around 11, my phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is James. We need to talk. I showed it to Tommy. He's persistent. What are you going to do? Nothing. He made his choice. That's the end of it. You sure? Because guys like that don't usually give up easy. He will when he realizes he's got more to lose than gain. Another text came through. You can't threaten me and just walk away. I have rights. I typed back, you're right. You do have rights. So does your employer when they find out about your relationship with a colleague. So does everyone who follows you on Instagram. Want to find out how fast your life can fall apart? Keep texting me. No response after that. Tommy whistled. Ice cold, man. Just practical. Around lunch, my phone rang. Emily, I answered on the third ring. Yeah? Ryan, I need you to come home. I'm working. Please. Something happened and I need you here. What happened? Silence. Then quietly, someone from HR called. They want to meet with me tomorrow. About James, about us. I closed my eyes. Did you tell them anything? No. I said I needed time to think. But Ryan, what do I... Tell them the truth. That you had a relationship, it's over now, and you're handling it professionally. What if they think Emily, I can't help you with this. You made these choices. You handle the consequences. You really don't care anymore, do you? No, I said. I really don't. I hung up. Tommy was watching me. Rough. She'll be fine. Worst case, they give her a warning. Best case, they document it and move on. You think James told them? Maybe. Or maybe someone saw something and reported it. Either way, not my problem. We went back to work. That night, I got home to find Emily on the couch, surrounded by papers. Work documents, it looked like. She'd clearly been crying again. How'd it go? I asked, not because I cared, but because silence felt worse. I have a meeting tomorrow at 9, with HR and my supervisor. She looked up at me. They're investigating a complaint about workplace relationships. Someone reported me and James. Who? They won't say, but whoever it was, they had details, dates, locations. Her hands shook. Ryan, what if I lose my job? You won't lose your job over a consensual relationship. But what if... Emily, stop. You're spiraling. I sat down across from her, not next to her. Listen to me. Go to the meeting. Be honest. Apologize if you need to. They'll either accept it or they won't. But sitting here panicking about it won't change anything. I can't believe this is happening. You should have thought of that before you started seeing James. I know. She wiped her eyes. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But Ryan, please, can we at least try to get through this together? I need someone right now, and you're the only... I'm the only one who's stuck around, I finished for her. The only one who hasn't bailed when things got hard? That's rich, Emily. That's really rich. That's not what I meant. Yeah, it is. You want me to be your safety net, your emotional support while you deal with the mess you created. But that's not my job anymore. Then what is your job? I don't know. But it's not fixing your problems. I stood up, headed for the stairs. Ryan. I stopped, didn't turn around. I'm sorry, she said. For everything. I know that doesn't change anything, but I am. I'm so sorry. I know you are, I said. But sorry doesn't fix broken things. It just acknowledges they're broken. Emily's meeting was the next morning. She left the apartment at 8, dressed in her most professional outfit, navy suit, white blouse, minimal jewelry, armor. I watched her drive away, then called Tommy. I need a favor, I said. What kind of favor? The kind where you don't ask questions. Pause. Okay, what do you need? Meet me at O'Malley's tonight, 7, and bring your cousin, the one who works in digital forensics. Ryan, man, what are you planning? Nothing illegal. I just need information. About? James Brennan. Tommy sighed. This is going to end badly. Probably. You in? Yeah, I'm in. I spent the rest of the day working, keeping my hands busy while my mind ran through scenarios. Emily's meeting could go several ways. They could slap her wrist, make her sign something, transfer her to a different account, or they could put her on probation. Or, worst case for her, they could let her go. Not that I wanted her to lose her job. I wasn't cruel, but I wasn't going to save her either. Around 2, she texted me. Meeting's over. Call me when you get a chance. I didn't call. I texted back, at work. Everything okay? Define okay. Did you keep your job? Yes. But I'm on probation. And they transferred me to a different team. Could be worse. Could be better. I didn't respond. At 7, I met Tommy and his cousin, a skinny guy in his 20s named Eric, who looked like he lived in a basement at O'Malley's. So what do you need? Eric asked after introductions. Everything you can find on James Brennan, I said. Social media history, financial records if you can get them, past relationships, anything that might be interesting. Eric frowned. That's borderline illegal, man. Just social media then, public stuff. I'm not asking you to hack anything. Why do you want this? Because I want to know who I'm dealing with. Eric looked at Tommy, who shrugged. Your call, man. Fine, Eric said, but it'll cost you $200. Deal. He pulled out his laptop, started typing. 10 minutes later, he had a spreadsheet open with more information than I'd found on my own. Okay, so James Brennan, Eric said. 36. Divorced. Reason for divorce isn't public, but based on his ex-wife's social media, there were infidelity issues on his end. She posted some vague stuff about trust and betrayal around the time they split. He cheated? Tommy said. Looks like it. And get this. His ex works in healthcare too. Different company, but same industry. Same type of position as your wife. I leaned forward. He has a type. Seems like it. Eric scrolled through more data. Financially, he's doing okay. Not great, but okay. Lives in a decent apartment downtown. Leases the Audi. Belongs to an expensive gym. Spends a lot on clothes and going out. Instagram shows him at high-end restaurants, bars, networking events. Show off, Tommy muttered. Pretty much. Eric pulled up James's Instagram. Look at the comments on his posts. Lots of women, lots of flirting. This guy's working multiple angles. I studied the screen. Eric was right. Every post had comments from different women, all playing the same game, compliments, emojis, inside jokes. James Brennan wasn't just seeing Emily. He was keeping his options open. What else? I asked. Not much. He's careful about what he shares publicly. No tagged photos from questionable situations, no obvious red flags. Eric closed his laptop. Whatever you're planning to do with this, be smart about it. I will. I paid Eric, thanked him, and left the bar feeling like I had the final piece of the puzzle. When I got home, Emily was in the living room again. This time she wasn't crying. She was just sitting, staring at nothing. Hey, she said when I walked in. Hey, where were you? Out. Out where? Does it matter? She looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, I saw something other than desperation in her eyes. Something harder. You know what? She said. You're right. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters anymore, does it? Emily. No, seriously. You've made it very clear that you're done, that nothing I say or do will change your mind. So why am I even trying? I don't know. Why are you? She laughed, bitter, exhausted. Because I'm an optimist, apparently. Because some stupid part of me thought maybe we could get past this. We can't. I know. She stood up. I'm going to bed. And tomorrow I'm going to start looking for an apartment. Because this, whatever this is, it's over. We both know it. She walked past me, stopped at the stairs. For what it's worth, she said without turning around. I did love you. Maybe not the way you needed. But I did. She went upstairs. I stood in the empty living room, listening to her footsteps fade and felt the first crack in the cold certainty I'd been holding on to. She was leaving. Actually leaving. And some small, stupid part of me wanted to stop her, but I didn't, because this was what I'd wanted, wasn't it? For her to feel the consequences, to understand what she'd lost. Except now that it was happening, it didn't feel like victory. It just felt empty. Emily started packing on Friday. I heard her upstairs, opening drawers, moving things around. The sounds of dismantling a shared life. She didn't ask for help, didn't ask me anything, just moved through the apartment like I wasn't there. By Saturday afternoon, she had 3 suitcases lined up by the front door. Clothes, toiletries, the things she'd need for an apartment she hadn't found yet. Where are you going to stay? I asked when she came downstairs with another bag. Hotel, until I find something permanent. You don't have to leave right away. She looked at me. Yes, I do, because if I stay here any longer, I'm going to lose my mind. Fair enough. She left around 4. Didn't say goodbye, just loaded her car, got in, and drove away. I stood in the doorway, watching her taillights disappear down the street. Then I went inside and sat on the couch in the too-quiet apartment. This should have felt like winning. Instead, it felt like I'd burned down my own house just to prove I could light a match. Sunday, I went to work. Not because I had to, but because I couldn't stand being in the apartment anymore. Tommy found me on the 3rd floor, replacing a vent cover that didn't need replacing. You're here on a Sunday, he said. Noticed that, did you? Emily moved out? Yeah. How do you feel? I don't know. I tightened a screw. Weird. Empty. Like I should feel something, but don't. That's normal. Grief is weird. I'm not grieving. Yeah, you are. You're grieving the relationship you thought you had. Tommy sat down on the floor, back against the wall. My divorce felt like that, like I was mourning something that didn't actually exist. How long did it take to stop feeling like that? About a year, maybe longer. He watched me work. But Ryan, can I ask you something? Sure. What's the end game here? You broke them up. You got Emily to leave. You won. So now what? I stopped working. I don't know. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you won the battle but lost the war. Maybe. So why keep going? I'm not... Yeah, you are. I know you, man. You're planning something else, something bigger, and I'm asking you to think real hard about whether it's worth it. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because he was right. I was planning something. One last move. Monday morning, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. We need to talk. This is Claire, James's ex-wife. I stared at the message, read it 3 times, then called the number. Hello? A woman's voice. Calm, professional. This is Ryan. You texted me. Right. Thanks for calling back. Papers shuffling in the background. I'll get straight to it. I know about you and Emily and James. I heard through mutual friends that James was seeing someone new and that it ended badly. Then I saw your name on some social media posts and put 2 and 2 together. Okay. I also know you confronted James. Got him to end things? How do you... Because I know James, and I know he wouldn't end a relationship voluntarily unless someone gave him a very good reason. She paused. Look, I'm not calling to lecture you or get involved in your marriage. I'm calling because I think you should know what you're dealing with. I'm listening. James isn't who he pretends to be. The whole caring, ambitious, successful guy thing, it's an act. Underneath, he's manipulative, selfish, and he will do anything, and I mean anything, to protect his image. When our marriage ended, he tried to turn everyone against me, made me out to be unstable, spread rumors. It got ugly. Why are you telling me this? Because if he feels threatened by you, and based on what I've heard he does, he's going to retaliate. And he's good at it. Very good. My grip tightened on the phone. What do you think he'll do? I don't know. But whatever it is, it'll be calculated. He'll make it look like your fault. He'll play the victim. She sighed. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to warn you. James doesn't let things go. Thanks for the heads up. One more thing. Emily, your wife, she's not his first workplace relationship. There was someone at his last job. That's partly why our marriage fell apart. He has a pattern. Finds women who are vulnerable or unhappy, makes them feel special, then moves on when it gets complicated. I closed my eyes. Emily wasn't vulnerable. She was... Everyone's vulnerable to something, Claire interrupted. James is good at finding that something. Don't take it personally. We talked for a few more minutes. She gave me her number in case I needed it, told me to be careful, then hung up. I sat in my truck, staring at the phone. James had a pattern. Emily wasn't special. She was just next in line, and somehow that made everything worse. Tuesday, the twist came. I was at the Riverside complex when Emily called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. What? I said. Ryan, I need to tell you something. Her voice was shaking. And you're not going to like it. What is it? I lied. About when things started with James. She took a breath. It wasn't 2 months. It was longer, 5 months. The world tilted. What? It started in June, not August. I'm sorry. I lied because I thought... I don't know what I thought. But you deserve to know the truth. June. 5 months. Back when we were still? June, I repeated. When we went to that work thing at the museum, when you said you'd made a new friend from the office. Yes. That was him. Yes. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. You looked me in the eye. At that museum. You introduced me to people from your office, and he was there, and you knew. You knew what you were doing, and you smiled and acted like everything was normal. I'm so sorry. 5 months, Emily. 5 months you lied to my face every single day. I know, and I can't take it back. But I needed you to know, because I can't keep lying. I'm done lying. You're done lying now? After it's all already destroyed? I know it doesn't help, but I owed you the truth. I hung up, stood there in the empty hallway, surrounded by ductwork and tools and the smell of fresh paint. 5 months. Not 2, 5. Which meant she'd been planning this. Planning to leave me, planning her exit. I'd been an obstacle she was managing. Tommy found me 20 minutes later, still standing in the same spot. What happened? He asked. Emily lied. About when it started. It was longer than she said. How much longer? 3 more months. Tommy's face went dark. That changes things. Yeah. So, what are you going to do? I looked at him. I'm going to finish this. Wednesday, I drove to Mitchell & Associates. Not to see Emily, not to see James, to see someone else. Her name was Patricia Lennon, senior partner, Emily's boss's boss, and according to the company website, the person who handled serious HR issues. I waited in the lobby until her assistant called my name. Mr. Cooper? Patricia was in her 50s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. What can I do for you? I'm Emily Cooper's husband, I said. I need to talk to you about James Brennan. She sat down behind her desk. I'm listening. James has a pattern of pursuing relationships with colleagues. My wife wasn't the first, and based on what I've seen, she won't be the last. Mr. Cooper, I appreciate you coming here, but we've already addressed the situation with Emily and James. Have you? I pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app where I'd compiled everything Eric had found. James's ex-wife told me about another workplace relationship at his previous job. That's why he left that company. And if you look at his current social media activity, he's already pursuing at least 2 other women who work here. Patricia's expression shifted. How do you know this? Because I've been paying attention, and because his ex-wife warned me that he doesn't stop. He just gets better at hiding it. I handed her my phone. She scrolled through the information, her face hardening with each line. This is concerning, she said finally. It's a pattern, and if your company doesn't address it, it's going to keep happening. Maybe next time it'll be worse. Maybe next time it'll end with a lawsuit. She looked at me. What do you want, Mr. Cooper? I want him gone. Or at minimum, I want him flagged, documented, monitored, because he's not going to stop. He's too good at this. Patricia closed my phone, handed it back. I can't promise anything, but I will look into this. Thoroughly. That's all I ask. I left her office, walked out of the building, got in my truck, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than cold certainty. I felt like maybe, just maybe, I'd done something right. That night, Emily called again. I heard you went to my office, she said. News travels fast. Patricia called me, asked if I knew you were meeting with her. And what did you say? I said no, because I didn't. Her voice was quiet. What did you tell her? The truth, about James, about his pattern. Silence. Ryan, what are you doing? Making sure he doesn't do this to someone else. By getting him fired? If that's what it takes. That's... She trailed off. That's vindictive. No, I said. That's consequence. He made choices, just like you did. Now he gets to live with them. I never wanted you to become this person. Yeah, well, I never wanted you to cheat on me for 5 months. We don't always get what we want. I hung up before she could respond. Friday afternoon, Tommy texted me. Heard through the grapevine that James got called into a meeting with HR and senior partners. Multiple complaints about his conduct. Good. You did this, didn't you? I just shared information. What they do with it is up to them. You're scary when you're focused, you know that? I'll take that as a compliment. I finished work early, drove home, and found a letter on the kitchen counter. Emily's handwriting. Ryan, I found an apartment. I'll be moving my stuff out this weekend. I know we need to talk about the house, the divorce, all the logistics, but I can't do it right now. I need space. I wish things had been different. I wish I'd been braver, or smarter, or just better. I wish I hadn't hurt you, but wishes don't fix anything. I'm sorry. Emily. I read it twice, then set it on the counter. She was right. Wishes didn't fix anything. The apartment felt different on Monday morning. Not empty, Emily had only taken some of her things, but lighter, like the weight of all those accumulated lies had lifted the second she admitted the truth. I made coffee, drank it standing at the counter, looked at the spaces where her stuff used to be. 5 months. She'd been planning this for 5 months, smiling at me, sleeping next to me, pretending. The anger I'd been holding on to had crystallized into something else, something colder and more permanent. Around 9, my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. I'm coming by at noon to get the rest of my things. Please don't be there. I didn't respond. At 11:45, I was sitting on the couch when I heard her car in the driveway. She'd brought someone. I heard 2 sets of footsteps on the stairs. A friend helping her move, probably. But when the door opened, it wasn't a friend. It was James. They both froze when they saw me. I thought you'd be at work, Emily said. I thought you were done with him, I said, looking at James. I'm just helping her move, James said quickly. That's all. Right, because that's what exes do. Help each other move. Emily stepped forward. Ryan, please, don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder than it has to be? I stood up. Emily, you brought him here, to our apartment, after everything. He offered to help. I didn't have anyone else. You could have asked literally anyone else. Your sister, your coworker, a stranger from the street. I looked at James. But you chose him. James held up his hands. Look, man, I don't want trouble. Then you shouldn't have come here. Ryan. Emily moved between us. Stop. Just stop. You've won. You got what you wanted. You broke us up. You got him in trouble at work. You made me leave. What more do you want? I want you to understand what you did. I do understand. I get it. I made a mistake. 5 months isn't a mistake, Emily. 5 months is a choice. A series of choices. Every day you looked at me and lied. Every time you said you loved me while you were planning to leave. That wasn't a mistake. That was intentional. Her face crumpled. I know. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But I can't change it. I can't go back and undo it. No, you can't. We stood there in the living room, me, Emily, and the man she'd chosen over me, and I realized something. This was it. This was the moment where I could either let it go or make it worse. And I was so tired of making it worse. Get your things, I said finally. Both of you. And then leave. Emily's eyes widened. That's it? You're just going to let us... I'm not letting you do anything. You're going to do whatever you want, just like you've been doing for 5 months. But you're not doing it here. So get your stuff and get out. They moved past me, headed upstairs. I heard them talking in low voices, boxes being packed, drawers being emptied. 20 minutes later, they came back down, arms full of clothes and personal items. Emily stopped at the door. The lawyer will send you the divorce papers. We can split everything 50-50. The house, the accounts, all of it. Fine. Ryan. Goodbye, Emily. She looked like she wanted to say more, but James was already halfway to the car and she just left. I watched through the window as they loaded her car, watched them drive away together, and then I was alone. Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from Patricia Lennon. Mr. Cooper, I wanted to update you, she said. We've completed our investigation into James Brennan. And? He's been put on formal probation. We've documented the pattern you brought to our attention, and we've implemented new policies around workplace relationships. If there are any further incidents, his employment will be terminated. Thank you. I should also tell you that Emily has submitted her resignation. That stopped me. What? She gave 2 weeks' notice yesterday, said she needed a fresh start. A fresh start. With James, probably, moving on to whatever came next. Okay, I said. Thanks for letting me know. I hung up, sat down on the couch. Emily was leaving her job, starting over somewhere new, and I didn't know what I was. Tommy came by that night with beer and takeout. Heard Emily moved out, he said, setting food on the counter. Yeah. How you holding up? I don't know. Ask me in a month. We ate in silence, watching a game neither of us cared about. You know what's weird? I said during the 7th inning. I thought this would feel better, like I'd won something, but it just feels empty. That's because revenge doesn't actually make you feel better. It just makes you even. I wasn't looking for revenge. Yeah, you were. You just called it something else. Tommy took a swig of beer. But you know what? You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to want her to hurt the way you hurt. That's human. I don't want her to hurt. Liar. I almost argued, then realized he was right. Part of me did want her to hurt. Wanted her to understand the weight of what she'd done. But another part, a smaller, quieter part, just wanted to move on. Friday morning, my phone buzzed. A text from James's ex-wife, Claire. Heard through the grapevine that James is on probation at work. Did you have something to do with that? Maybe. Good. He deserved it. Thank you for doing what I couldn't. I stared at the message, then typed back. Did he ever apologize to you for what he did? No, James doesn't apologize. He justifies. Yeah, that tracks. Are you okay? I will be. Good luck, Ryan. You're better off without them. I set my phone down, looked around the empty apartment. She was right. I was better off, even if it didn't feel like it yet. The divorce papers came the following Tuesday. Standard stuff. 50-50 split of assets, no alimony. Clean break. I signed them in the parking lot of the Riverside complex, Tommy watching over my shoulder. That's it then, he said. It's done. Yeah. How do you feel? Like I just closed a book I never wanted to read in the first place. Tommy laughed. That's poetic. That's therapy. I mailed the papers back that afternoon, watched the envelope disappear into the postal box, and felt nothing. Not relief, not sadness, just the quiet certainty that this chapter was over.